And we are live. I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. And tonight's guest is Pamela P. Ferguson. Pamela, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Welcome everyone. My name is Pamela Ferguson. I'm a Jamaican. I'm also a licensed, I'm a master social worker. For my job, I do a lot of work with adults and children with special needs. I have personal experience but most of my experience have been with parents. And I also do, one of my thing that I really want to do is to help educate other parents like how someone educates me. So what I do, I'm actually, every now and again, I do training. I have a LLC company, Ferguson Education Consultant Services LLC. And I hope whatever I say tonight, I have to be a disclaimer. I am not an expert. I'm just sharing what I have learned. Welcome again.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And tonight we're having a conversation about autism spectrum disorder. This is something that I've not been very familiar with, but I have done a little research, and I'm very thankful, Pam, for you coming to help us out tonight. Well, I'll start off with my first question. What is autism spectrum disorder?
Okay, so people say autism spectrum disorder, or people say autism. So I'm not sure if people remember that autism spectrum disorder used to describe like people that they used to call high functioning. We don't use that anymore.
Okay.
But autism is a developmental disability. And one of the things about autism, when people can identify, is that it has deficit in social communication and social interaction. You can also have restrictive, repetitive patterns of behavior. And there's several functions that you're not able to do, or something that you can do very well. And someone might say that you have autism. Another thing too, there's no known cure and there's no known cause. You know, you have a lot of things that people say, genes, genetics, whatever, but coming from the CDC, there's no known cause. And the autism spectrum disorder range from high to low. Some people that have autism might require intensive support. Like they might need somebody to help them at home, feeding, ADL, help them in the house. They have intellectual disability. And you have some people with autism who have very minimal support needs.
Okay. So I have to ask you this. Why is it called a spectrum disorder?
It's called a spectrum disorder because, as we say, it's on the spectrum. So it starts and it goes, it's like it's...
So there are different levels of it, basically.
There's different levels. So as I say that you have some people that have extensive needs. They need a lot of support. They might need some people at school. They might need somebody to be with them to learn. And some people, they're so brilliant. We have, further on in the conversation, I could name out some people who are so brilliant, and they do have autism. You would never even know, but they do have autism.
Okay. I've read that there are 3 main types of autism. Now, you just mentioned that they don't use the term high functioning anymore. But in what I was reading, it said classic, high functioning, and Asperger's syndrome, which I did not know that was a part of the whole spectrum thing. So I'm asking you to please define each of those.
So let's say that again. You said classic?
Classic, right. It said classic, and then it said high functioning and Asperger's syndrome. And then I heard you say earlier, like, they're not really using that term, high functioning, because in my reading, I saw where it said low functioning, and someone said you would not want your kid to be labeled as low functioning. So I totally get it. I totally get it.
So that is why, because one of the things that we try to do in the world of disability, I would say, is that you don't want to label people.
Yes.
You are who you are. And so we like people first language. So we don't want to call people low functioning, high functioning. And even people who have autism would say, I don't want to say I have autism. I want to say I'm autistic. So it's
Okay.
very different kinds. So classic autism would say is that they have intellectual disability. So
Okay.
they would need like extensive support.
Okay.
And then the people that you say have autism spectrum would say that maybe they do not need a lot of support. So this is how we want to label it. You need support, extensive support, you need some support, and you need minimal support. And I can give you an example. So someone who would need extensive support is some have to get feeding. Some
Okay.
young people, kids, they might bang their head. You have to protect them. They are not aware of their surroundings, and you really have to guide them.
Okay.
Some people that have need, some kind of support, they understand some stuff. They have some developmental disability, but
Okay.
disability that intellectual disability they're trying to say is like if you reach like 79. So what happens if you're 78? What happens if you're 80?
You're
So
right.
some people will need some kind of support.
Okay.
And you have some, they're brilliant. But remember, I said something about social communication. They might work in the workplace. And they have some attitudes that it's not weird. You might consider it weird. They're just different. They think different. They see
Yeah.
things different. So would they need some support? Yes, maybe because we are all typical folks. And when somebody is a little not like us, we think it's different. But
Ready
that's
to
just how
label
it is.
them.
Ready to label. And if somebody I know personally that we used to have someone that would not say good morning. And I mean, we coming from the islands, we love to say good
Of
morning,
course.
breathe, and
Yes.
expect people might say, what's so good about the morning? They don't have that. But it doesn't mean that they're just
Right.
they just don't see things like we do. But they do have a label, as we call it, of autism. They could be a little different. They might need some support. And an autistic person might tell you, you know what, you want to fit me into your world. Maybe you should take a step back and look into my world. So that is really, we really want to say it's the kind of support that someone need.
That's why
On
I'm so glad that we're doing this. My cousin Ruthlyn, she's saying hi and watching and learning. Thank you for joining us, Ruthlyn. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because as I did my reading, I learned a lot, as I told you, and it really opened up my mind, because I realized that in the past I did not have as much as empathy as I could have in some of these situations. So I did learn a lot. So I would like to ask you, what are signs of autism?
And that again, you might know somebody and have autism and you'll never know.
Okay.
Because some people with autism can really mask it. And I always think about it that maybe when we're going to school, we know people were a little different. We didn't autism. What is that? But they were a
True.
little different. So, but some of the things that they're saying that you have autism, where they're asking you to look for, I'll go I'll go and tell you exactly what they're trying to say about autism. It says
Okay.
that, as we're saying that you have, and this is coming from like the DSM-5, it
Okay.
is saying that there's a social communication issue.
Okay.
You have restrictive patterns of behavior. So, for instance, if a little kid, notice certain interests, continue doing certain things, and one of the things that like a parent would always look for, they're not communicating. They love to be by themselves. They don't look you in the eye. But it doesn't mean that that's all. Some people could look you in the eye and still have, autism. But
Yes.
one of the things that they really talk about is the social communication. You know, they like sometimes to isolate themselves. They don't play with everyone. They have they have different kinds of function. And when you go to the doctor, your child is two, they're measuring them. Okay, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. And some kids not reaching that milestone.
Hmm.
They're not talking at a certain age. So people start to say, maybe I should check into that. So after a while, the doctors now have to say, you know what? Maybe we have to check into this. Normally say, okay, I know in the country you will grow out of it. We treat you, yeah, you will grow out of it. But some people not growing out of it because they need additional support and they need service to help them to be the best that they can be. So
Okay.
it's different. My response will be that it is different for everyone. However,
Okay.
the social isolation, the communication, the repetitive behavior, that is some of the key things that you would look for.
Okay. Okay. Now, it seems that the autism spectrum disorder has become more prevalent. Would you say that is the case, or maybe in the past it went undiagnosed in many cases?
I asked the same question, do about that, because now it's saying that frequency of autism now, or ASD, across the US have been reported to between 1 to 2% of the population. Years ago, they were saying like 1 in 164. Now they're saying 1 in 37. So you
Wow.
ask the question, where did all this come from? So the talk is that people now maybe know what to look for. People are aware of it. Just think about it. Everywhere you look, you can read something about it. April
Yes.
is Autism Month. Parents now, you have your child like, let me go check on this. Could it be autism? So people are aware. So maybe it's being diagnosed more often now. That is how I would look at it. But what they're saying is that there's considerable discrepancies are found in the age of the diagnosis of ASD in
Okay.
children from diverse ethno-racial backgrounds. So we could do a whole nother session on just that ethno-racial backgrounds, because then in the beginning they were saying like, why is African American not having autism? They have ADHD, they have conduct disorder, it's never autism. But now, of course, parents like myself would go around and say, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, your kids doing all sort of that. Why is always that? Why is conduct disorder? Why is it oppositional defiant disorder? Why is not autism? So I
Right.
think that it's people are more aware. And a lot of parents who have been through that whole special education arena, they're jumping to other parents. Each one teach one. You gotta check it out. You gotta learn. You
Yes.
gotta do this. So I think people are more aware, social media, and a lot of thing too is that there's a lot of organization, Autism Society of America, politicians talking about it's all over. So I'm gonna say that I think people are more aware of it, and when we are aware of something, you check it out.
Okay, I watched a few videos the other day on YouTube. It was several adults who said they were diagnosed as adults. It's like that's when they pretty much found out that they were autistic, and then they said things made more sense to them once they were diagnosed, because it helped them to understand themselves better. Some had like the social, issues and all of that. So it makes me wonder, because I stop and think back to when I was a kid in school, and I think back to certain kids and their behaviors from what I was reading, and then it made more sense to some of the things I saw when I was in school. I have another cousin that's on. She's on from the UK, Patricia. She's saying I taught pupils with autism for 16 years, and what you're saying is interesting. Thank you so much for joining us, Pat.
I would say when I remember to going to school, I remember I never hear the word autism.
Right, never heard the word.
Never heard the word. And then I remember Rain Man. You remember Rain
I
Man, that
remember
movie?
the movie. I was going to ask you if that's
Yeah, everybody
okay.
talk about that. That
Yes.
like was our introduction. But I'm telling you now that it's everywhere, and then there's different aspect of it. And I have worked, looking for services for people who we would call, as
Hmm.
high functioning, which we shouldn't.
Yes.
Brilliant. brilliant, individuals, and they think different. They say they are neurodiverse. They see the world differently. So it's not that something is wrong with them. Maybe something is wrong with us.
Right.
You
I
know,
get it. I get
they
what you're
just see things
saying.
differently, and why are we trying to fit them in what we want? Or and I remember seeing a TED talk about a lady saying that it's not that people with autism don't like to go to the mall, but the lights. Maybe if the lights weren't so bright, because with autism too, there's a lot of sensitivity issues. If
Okay.
it wasn't so bright, it wasn't so crowded, maybe they would like going to the mall. So maybe if you have a mall, very quiet, very peaceful, fishes in a tank, very people with autism would love go to the mall. And now you're even having town in across America here that's calling themselves autism friendly.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they're doing it like marketing now. Oh, we are autism friendly state. So people, of course, you have a child with autism, you're gonna go there where the child could
Yes.
enjoy a vacation. So it's it's a different way of how people are. That's what I'm gonna say. We are so different individuals in a world that belongs to everybody. That's
Okay.
just how we have to look at it.
Now, is there a gene that's prevalent in one of the parents why a child may end up with autism or being on the spectrum? And which parent would it be that carries the gene?
I did look at that question when I saw
Mm-hmm.
that you were asking a question, and I did do a little read up on that. And
Okay.
most of this stuff, I always advise people, when you're reading stuff, be careful what you read online. So I
Yes.
always go to like the CDC,
Yes.
and I always go to like universities, the .org. I never go to a .com. And sometimes you listen to a parent story and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I went and I look at the CDC, and this is what it was saying, that what causes autism. And it said, although the cause of ASD is known in some people and not known in others, genetics, biology, and environment are all important factors. Having older parents, a difficult birth, or infections during pregnancy are all examples of factors. For example, ASD is 4 times more common in males than females. People with certain genetic disorders, such as Fragile X syndrome, tuberous sclerosis, and Down syndromes, are more likely to have ASD.
Okay.
So it says having a family history makes you more likely to have a child with ASD or to have ASD yourself. If
Okay.
you have a child with ASD, you're more likely to have another child with ASD, especially if you have a daughter with ASD or more than one child with ASD. So he said, when collecting family health history information, include your partner's children, parents, sisters, brothers. Include anyone with a diagnosis of ASD, learning disorder, intellectual disability, schizophrenia, personality disorder, attention deficit disorder, because sometimes they were diagnosed with all these things when it could have been autism. So
Okay.
they're not positively saying that there's a gene
Okay.
carried, but the research is not there to show that the genes,
Okay. Okay.
the research is just not there. But it's like, I love Tylenol, that work for me. Ibuprofen work. It's just that
Yeah,
it's
I get it.
different. So they're saying that there's no genes really, or there's not research that is showing that, but they have seen some things that have caused that you have a child, yes, you have another child. But I don't think they want to say that there's really a gene
Okay.
that's coming from. And some people, there's even readings that say it's from the male.
Right.
Yes, there's some reading that is saying that it is from the male, but there's no definite fact about that. So I would
Okay.
say it's still out there.
Okay.
It's still out there as to not, it says here, note, if anyone had a genetic testing and the result of that testing include anyone with a genetic disorder that can cause ASD. Again, I said, like Rett syndrome and Fragile X syndrome. So it's a lot of they're researching, they want to know what really caused it. And
Yeah.
they're saying that there's no known cause and no known cure. So I think it's
Okay.
still up in the air for the scientists to really come, tell us
Yeah.
what
And I
really is.
guess as time goes on,
Time
we'll
goes on
have
because there's a lot of
more
things we don't know.
information. Yes. Yeah. Now, what are the first steps for seeking diagnosis? Like if a parent is concerned, what's the first step?
So I know my child is 27 now, 27, 28. So if you go to the doctor at 2 and they're checking you at 2, you're not doing certain things, at 3 you're not doing certain things, the doctor now, I notice, is sending you to what they call where they're checking to see what is going on. And immediately, first time they would just leave it. Now they have to suggest that you get an evaluation. Now
Okay.
when you get the evaluation now, that is when they'll tell you, is your child not moving as you should, is your child need extra support, and they start to watch it. I have seen where they have diagnosed autism like from like age 3, like they know already that this child has autism. So the first thing that is encouraged to do is that you have to get evaluated. Don't just suppose something is not looking like it should. You go check it out. It might not be, but it doesn't hurt to check it out. So the first known thing is to go check it out. You're not supposing, you're not talking to your mother, you're not talking to your friend. You're going to get professional advice and get the doctors to test, and then they will tell you. And sometimes I even encourage people get a second opinion.
Yeah.
You don't have to take the first opinion. Go, okay, fine, you say that. I'm going to go check someone else too. So the first thing is to get tested, and you have to make sure it's a psychologist that, and people who, I would say, pediatric psychologists, pediatric neurologists, those people who specialize in diagnosing, because you have to be very important. And then again, I would say, and I'm speaking from the parents, about the parents that I work with and myself, you have to be careful when you're of, say, I don't want to say minority, no minority, but you're from a different country, you're from a different background, you really want to be specific. I would say one thing I want to check, and I want to be sure who I'm getting the diagnosis from. I
Good.
would also be careful about that.
Now, do you think that there are parents who may hesitate because they're afraid to get the diagnosis that their child has this? And, because I think it's better to know. I think maybe there are some parents who, you think of the perfect baby that you had, and then you start to think that something is wrong with your child or something is wrong with you. Why my child? So I'd like you to address that.
And as I say, I work a lot with parents. I run a support group myself with parents. And one of the things is that is the shame. Why there's shame, we don't know, but there is shame. And if you talk to a lot of parents and they're honest, there is something that you feel. And I remember going to a conference, and a lady, she was autistic, and she gave this presentation, and she was saying that no, her child was autistic, she was autistic too, she didn't know at the time. And she was saying, here you are planning a cruise or planning a trip, and you're going to like Italy or Paris, and you're packing your luggage and everything, and you're so excited, and the time comes for you to take the trip, and you go on the airplane and you're going to Paris, and you end up in another country that you didn't plan for. And now you have to be in that country, and you have to know its surrounding, and have to live there. So they're saying that it's like, when the mom is pregnant or the family expecting a baby, what an excitement. And the time come, and you think your child is not what you thought it should be. So that, you know, it bothers a lot of people. When I found out that my child was I always say was a little unique.
Yes.
It was, but what I do, I start to that's how I deal with stress most of the time is I'm eager for information. So some people handle things differently. I'm eager. I want to learn. It's almost like I want to defy what is said. So I'm trying to learn. I'm checking out things. I'm doing that. I'm asking questions. So that is the fear. And don't forget your family members and your peer, because that is another issue, because it looks like you are now different because you have a child that is a little different. And unless you meet somebody that is very accepting, like, well, this is what we have, this is what we have to deal with, and how can we work around it? How can we support you? How can we do that? And I would say, based on the fact that we are now aware and we are more educated, that I've seen it. I've seen younger parents now that I'm talking to that is more open, because people are more open. Their community is more open. It's everywhere. So people are not so the stigma is still there, but people can, I should say that people feel like they can approach someone. But before, people were afraid and people were ashamed. So that is why sometimes people just don't want to even, it's not true, it will go away. That's
Yeah, and
my coming from me and my experience.
I had to ask you that because, you know, growing up in the Jamaican culture, and I'm not trying to label Jamaicans, but I have to say it. The
Yeah,
insensitivity sometimes, if a person may have mental health issues or whatever, and the words that are used, the derogatory terms that are used. So I could see a parent being afraid because of the stigma and, you know, not wanting their child to experience it, but not even knowing how to express the emotions and all that they're going through, to cope with this sort of diagnosis. So, thank you for answering that, because I think that would make a difference. And I shared with you the last time we spoke, like there's a young man that goes to my church, and sometimes he would just have these outbursts, start screaming and all of that. And I'll be honest, when he would start screaming, sometimes I'd feel like, "Oh, I can't take the screaming," instead of having empathy for what the child is going through and what his mother is going through. So I am glad that I chose to do this topic, because I did the reading that I did, it really opened my heart. So I think for those who watch this show, even if you don't have this problem in your family, or have this issue rather in your family, I'm hoping that it will open your heart to more understanding, and show more empathy to parents who are going through this, more understanding, because I think that would make a big difference.
it would. And, I'm a church goer myself, and the church community, that especially I have to say, we're Jamaicans, I have to say, our
Hmm.
Jamaican church community can be very judgmental. And
Yes.
they don't want children in church to be very quiet. That's known. You're to sit in church, be quiet, listen. And the minute that a child in church is behaving a little differently, you don't even have to have a disability, just can't fidgety and can't stay. It's that everybody turn around and look. If
Yeah.
the child, everyone turn around and look. Do you know what do to a mom or a dad? Everybody, the child start and everyone turn around and look. And all somebody had to do was to go help.
Yeah, it's true.
All
I
you have
mean,
somebody on the church just want to say, "Can I help you? You want me to help you?" Poor mom sometimes just want a little help and she want to listen to the service too.
and
You
see,
know, so
sometimes I think more people will be willing to come to church and hang around for the whole day if they knew that support was there. So, like I said, I am glad that we're doing this, because it's opened my heart, because now I have a little more understanding. So I think sometimes it's the lack of knowledge,
it
you
is a lack
know.
of knowledge. It is definitely. And I would say even in my church now, I've seen where it has changed and people are willing to support and people, but then again, I say I have a parenting support program and we talk about it. Autism month, I have parents that have children with autism, we talk about it. Autism month, we do programs, we do all of that, so people are more aware, people willing to listen. And I've seen the change. I've seen really support, that people are really, because they didn't know. The church people are loving people. Jamaican are loving set of
Yes.
people, but they don't know. So now
Yeah.
that they've learned, I've seen the change. So maybe our children will never see or experience what we did, because the whole world is now more exposed and
And
understanding.
and that's a good thing. And Sherry Francis, thank you for joining, Sherry. She said, I agree. I stopped going to church when my daughter was born because the constant crying was distracting and it was embarrassing. And we shouldn't, no one should really, feel like that in church. I remember last year I went to my uncle's funeral, and my grandson, he was the little babbling that babies do. And I remember I said to him, shh. And my daughter looked at me and she said, Don't you shush him. She said that to me. And my feelings were really hurt. But then I look back and I understand where my daughter was coming from. But from the mindset, because I'm from the old school and I remember what it's like to go to church and you better sit still, you know?
Still,
You better not make any noise. So, yeah, there is definitely more hope, I think, with the younger generation.
I'm hoping, and I've seen that. I've seen the younger, gone into schools now. I've seen where children, they're doing some exciting programs where, they're educating people with disability, with non-disabled peers. They are getting empathy. They're working together. Yeah, I might not be able to do this as fast as you, but I'm pairing up with somebody who can guide me. They're peers together. I've seen some wonderful programs, and I've also seen some bad programs where they put you and everybody who have issues are at the same place. So, but I'm really, I would say, hopeful. I'm hopeful that things are going to change. It's in the future, and I don't know if it's because of social media, but I think people are getting some of the information they're getting from the wrong place, but the
Yes.
information is there if you really, really want to get it.
It's
Information.
true. It's true. And what I would like to say is I'm so glad that you're on, because I did do reading online. I did watch videos online, but it's like anyone can put anything out there. So I guess you really do have to be careful of the where you find your resources.
Yes.
Yes. So I have to ask you this, Pamela. Once diagnosed, what are the next steps that a parent should take?
Well, my suggestion, to parents is that, first of all, they're gonna use some certain tools to diagnose. They're gonna use, and I'm reading, they're gonna use this tool to screen, would be called social responsiveness scale. They're going to use an adaptive behavior assessment system, and they're also going to do a behavioral assessment system for children. So they're going to use three different screening tools. So one of the things that I really encourage parents to do, you might not be a social worker, you don't understand these things. Whenever they do these tests or whatever, you get the information, you go find somebody else that can help you understand it. And there's a lot of people out there that can help you break it down, because some of these things, if you have never seen it before, it's almost like another language. It is, as a matter of fact, it is another language if you have never seen it before. And you might want somebody to break it down for you to understand that this is what is happening. And then once you have been diagnosed, my suggestion is to learn everything that you possibly can. And you mentioned before that some people have been diagnosed as adults.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a 50-year-old just
Wow.
found out that he has autism? I've spoken to someone, he was 62 years old, and he said, I'm retired from my job that I worked for 27 years. And
Wow.
I never knew why I was so different.
Oh my
I
goodness.
never knew why I didn't have any friends at work. 27 years. But he would go to work, do his work because he wanted to earn his money. He had a family, but he never know. He said it's almost like at 62, it's almost like a weight lift off their shoulder that no, I understand. And just think about it that, you're diagnosed if you're young, you're going through school system, there's so much support now that you can get. So, I mean, when you reach 60, it could be different. But just think about somebody going through all that discrimination, things happening, you don't know.
Yeah.
He told me stories that, like, the family members, trying to get a girlfriend. He went to college, so, he could go to college, but just, oh, people snob him. He was just awkward,
Because
he
he
would
was
say.
different.
He
Yeah.
was a little different, but he did find a nice girl, and he said she was awkward like himself, and they built a beautiful life and stuff like that. They had children, and consider himself a success, but he was still very happy that he now know what it is.
That had to be freeing in
Yeah,
many ways.
almost like, so it's like when you know, they say sometimes ignorance is bliss. You don't know, you just,
Yeah.
but if something's if you can know now, oh, this is the reason why that happened. It's not that I'm all off. This is the reason. It
Right.
must.
There's a reason. So it's not like I was crazy or weird, where like I was just an outcast of society where no one wanted to hang out. So, yeah, I think it is a good thing to know.
It is freeing, and if you talk to, and even the thing about it, even if a young person, I would say, because I've seen a lot of young children have autism, it doesn't mean that they're silly. They have knowledge. As I said, a different is a different. It's a different side of the spectrum. So you have to be careful what you're saying around them. You have to be respectful. You have to always assume when somebody have autism that they understand you. You
Yes.
can't just say, oh, they have autism, so you talk anything around. You always have to be respectful, and always, and people have a lot of and as I say, education, lack of education about it. You're talking to they're talking to, oh, maybe the mom, and here's a young man here. You're talking about him, and he's right here.
And he's
You
right there.
Yeah, you address him. It don't matter if you address him,
So it's like the kid is right there.
and
I
you
should say, "How are you today?" Not say, talk to his mother so his mother will answer for him. Give him the
no, no,
opportunity to
no,
speak
no.
for
Unless
himself.
he said, or the mother would say that, I really, his communication is, I'll answer. But you must always assume that they're competent. They might
Yes.
not be at a certain level, but if you do that with respect, we're all individuals, we're all human beings. We just have to be treated like human beings, not you
Definitely.
have autism, you have mental illness, like human beings. And I think if we start to treat everyone like a human being, I think
It would make a
it
difference.
could make a big difference.
It would definitely make a difference. Now, going back to testing, if a parent is like nervous about the process, and is it okay for them to ask questions, to ask for an explanation, like why is this being done, and just to be sure of the process?
Always, that is advisable. Always ask. This is your child. And all I have to say, if your child is going to school, and this is where I've done most of my work in the school system, and those parent placement team table, that's where I've done all of my work. Because when your child go to school, it's like that's their first, I would say a child is born, the first entrance into the world is their home.
Yeah.
They might go to church, and then the next one is school. And school is where all different kind of people, different kind of teachers, and so it's like a wide open world there. That's your first big wide open world. Home is controlled, church is controlled, but when you go to school, it's a whole wide open world. And if your child go to school, and any teacher or someone just say, "Oh, your child is not," but you know how your child behave before your child even leave the house. But if they go to school and they start to talk about, your child, you always ask question. You always ask why. But one of the advice that I would give to parents, not only ask why, you got to do your research. You gotta
Yes.
find people you act, because I'm telling you, I remember going to school in Jamaica. Okay, the teachers, you leave everything up to teachers. Parents leave everything up to teachers. I'm advising you. You're not a teacher, but you're a parent. Learn everything that you can. And if your child is diagnosed, learn everything that you can about that, or they're supposed to be educated. And listen, you're gonna be a best friend with the teachers, you're gonna go to school, you're going to volunteer, you're gonna do everything because you want to learn. You have
Yes.
to learn, because remember, when your child go through school, that teachers just pass by.
Yeah.
That's your child for your life. So they're just going through a system. This is your child. So you have to think about, my child is 5. He's going to be 15. He's going to be 25. So you have to think about all that trajectory and how you, your family, going to be helped to help that person move along through the stages of life. And it depends upon you to guide them and to learn. And you don't have to know everything, but there's a lot of people out there that can help you. And there's a lot of reading. Before we finish, I'll give you some books that I'm suggesting that
Yes.
parents can read, and some website that parents can go look at. But I'm telling you, information is there. Look at you.
Knowledge is power.
I know. Look at you. You're having this program. People from all over the world can say, oh, and there's a lot of other programs.
Yeah.
So information is there. So it's not hidden under no bushel anymore. It's out there. You just have to go and look for it. And I remember doing like parent education, and would be upset when a parent don't come to the classes or stuff like that. It's trying to teach them how to read that document that you get at school to say that
Yes.
your child in special education. I couldn't understand, why didn't they come to the program? Don't they want to learn? And then you have to realize that some parents have barriers.
Yes.
People come, not everyone is able to get up and leave work and come. Some people have 2 jobs.
True.
People move from. So what time are they having? Although I might say that should be your number one focus, my situation might be different from yours.
True.
So I would say, no matter what your situation is, though, you can learn, because even on the job, you can do some reading.
Definitely.
You
I
just
mean,
have to find
definitely.
the way to learn about it, because remember, if it's a child, they are depending on you. So
Definitely.
they are
I
depending
mean,
on you.
I agree with you 100%. And, something that, I've been reading a lot lately, Pamela, about children who are socially awkward. Like when it's birthday time and they have these parties and they invite their class, and it's like no one is showing up for these kids, and how heartbroken they are, and I read an article just last week about that. And I've read too many articles like that. And it's always, oh, well, the kid was a little weird or the kid was whatever. And I think as a parent, if my kid is invited to a party, I think it's a learning opportunity for both me and my child. If the child has an issue, I won't even say a problem, has an issue, because I think socialization is very important. So, in a case like that, as a parent, do you think can we just take it to school, ask the teacher, like during break, can we do the cake or whatever with the kids? Or do we encourage kids to go to these parties that they're invited to? Because I think when a child is growing up with that stigma from an early age, to feel like I wasn't good enough, and when you start to see yourself as an outcast, I think it's so easy to become one.
Yes, yes, and elementary school is usually not that bad. I have
Yeah.
seen it, and I would say up to when the kid might be 10, you
Yes.
have the politically correct parents who will allow the child to go, because most of the time it's not at the house, it's at a. I remember when my child was
Like
young,
a
was
Chuck E.
it's
Cheese or
Chuck E.
something
Cheese.
like that.
But people will come because kids want to go and run around. You see, when the child reach 10, you're going on to middle school now, you start to see the division. And some people get invited to some party and some people don't. But I've seen some very skilled parents, and they're so involved in the school that parents feel obligated to have they have a party. Parents feel obligated, like they have to carry their kid. But is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. But might not have to have a, your child, what's going on. You can just have two friends. You can cultivate two little friends and you have a little party with you don't
Yeah.
think that the whole class, because when they reach middle school, I've seen it, where all of a sudden you start to see the divide. Don't
Yeah.
mention high school. That's a totally different. By the time
Yeah.
they reach high school, total division. You stay over there, I stay over there. You're not invited. This is my group. That is your group. And then some of the kids with special education, if in special education, if they are understanding enough, they also don't want to have any interaction with somebody who is in special education. They also don't want to be a part of it. So they'll rather stay by themselves. So, but I believe a lot depends on the community that you live in,
Yes.
and you as the parent, the neighborhood, because instead of, I've tell you, I've seen some parents that have done some phenomenal thing. They go to the school, they volunteer to do this. Everybody knows them. Oh, everybody know that's Jenny's mom. When Jenny's having something, you better believe everybody's going, because mom is all around the place doing this, doing that, and but mom have a purpose. Mom is trying to guide our child to as comfortable as possible. Now, can everybody do that? No.
No.
Some moms don't work. Some mom have that privilege to do that. Some don't. They barely, holding it together. But I've seen some people, and in some community, they do walk. They talk about this. They visit neighbors. They do little things that you might say, oh, but there was a reason why they were doing that. Because you see, by the young person reach 13, 14, everybody in the neighborhood know them. Oh,
True.
that's John. They don't care what's going on with John. They know John.
That's true. Well,
So,
I think for the churches, this is a perfect opportunity to like celebrate the kids. I know not everyone celebrates birthdays, but for those that do, I think it's a perfect time to celebrate a kid and to help them feel special. And this is something I hope some churches and groups will think about. The thought of a child feeling like an outsider is just something that's very heartbreaking to me.
very heartbreaking. At my church, over the years, we have done like a graduation, because we graduate like moving from grade. Some people come first
Yeah.
and second and third. Some people never come first, second, and third, but they graduate. So we start to like celebrate the fact that you graduate. You're gonna be celebrating. The fact that
Yes.
you move from grade to grade, you're gonna be celebrating, because we do know that out there they only look at one and two.
Yes.
And we want to celebrate with everyone. But you're right, that is something that the church that's a community. But sometimes you live in a community, people don't even know each other. It's not like, we're in a community, you just go in your house, you leave. But the church is where I think that a lot of things can happen.
I mean, definitely, it's definitely something to consider. You talked about different resources, and what I wanted to ask you, like, what sort of support resources are available for the families that are living with autism?
Okay, so I know that people that might be listening is from all over. I'm in Connecticut, you're in Florida.
Florida.
So, but I do know that most places have, if your child is diagnosed with autism, because autism is big and the federal government, they have put a lot of money have been put into autism. So wherever you are, if you go on your website, the state agencies, say for instance in Connecticut, I know it's Department of Social Services. In Massachusetts, it's Department of Developmental Disabilities. But every agency have a pocket that deals with autism. So that's the first thing. In the school, they have autism commission. Most governors have an autism commission. So these are people in the community that reports to the governor what is going on with autism. You have several autism support groups. So if you just works like virtual now, oh my goodness, COVID has done things that you can be like, we're here, and you said somebody in England is watching, right?
Yes.
So this is how it is now. So you can do virtually. For instance, I'm doing some parent education, and I'm here, and I'm doing a parent education in Jamaica. There are certain times that to go online, and because Jamaica's special education system is a little different. So I'm
Yes.
learning it. They're telling me, and I'm advising them, what they can do, or they can learn it, and what they're supposed to do, and it's all up to them.
Yes.
But everywhere there's resources for autism right now. If you go on the Human Services website, there's so much money for autism. There's a big autism agency. They were just appointed a lady on it. I don't remember the name right now, but it's a big agency, and they have put in a lot of money. They have open meeting. Did you know you can? I'll find the website. You can go on there. They have open meeting, groundbreaking things about autism, and people in the autism community, they are fighting. They are making it known out there. So there's a lot of brain grounding things that's going on. So it don't matter where you are. You just research it, but start with the government agencies. And there's a lot of non-profit agencies too that deal with art.
Okay.
So it's
And now
there.
when it's time for college, are those the same agencies that these families could turn to for support?
Well, so here's the difference now. If you're going to go to college, most of the time it means that you able to pass certain tests and you're able to go to college. Now we have a lot of people with autism, and those are most of the people that I would work with to get them support if they're gonna be doing that. And some of now you come out of where you have to get services. You're going to college, you don't have to get services.
Okay.
You can look out for services from some agencies. They might give you some services, but they're not going to pay. From what I know, they're not paying for your college stuff like
Okay.
insurance. But if you're going to go to college, but you don't know how to maneuver the college campus, you might be able to get a coach to do that.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
states might be different. But I know some states you can get a coach to guide you about, you're sharing room with someone, you don't take their things. Just those little simple little
Right. Right.
that
Right.
you might figure, okay, somebody has something in the fridge, I'm hungry, just go eat it. No. Those little social awkward things that you might do, and it could cause a problem. But if you're going to college and you have autism and you need some support, I'm going to say to every parent, there's somewhere that someone will be able to help in wherever you are. I know in Connecticut, you could call up, like they would call these agencies that help people. There's a family agency they'd call family support agencies. There's money there for autism. You're an adult now when you're going to college. So the money or support that you can get might be limited. But if you
Okay.
do your research, you can get it. And in the college campus themselves, there's a section that support people with disability. But a
Okay.
lot of people who go to college is not going to go to the desk and say, "Oh, I have autism." They're not doing it.
True.
The parent might even say, "You can get support," and they would say, "Oh, yes, I know," but they're not doing it.
But they won't do it. Now
They're
for
not.
parents, because I know maybe parents may go through burnout, you know, are there parental support groups to help parents to let off steam, to talk about,
Oh,
what they're
there's
going through, and, to learn maybe new things that they can do with their children?
Yeah, there's parent support group all around. There's parent support group for younger children, middle children, and adults. Some adults now even meeting up together now as autism and talking about marriage and their own children and stuff like that. There's a lot of support group. You go online, meet me up, and although we have to be careful sometimes to
Yes.
who we meet and stuff like that. But there's a lot of group out there. You can also look at them and see who sponsor them sometimes, so you can decide what you
Right.
want to do. And burnout, you have to get support. You can't handle it alone. Don't ever think that you're some great person, you can do everything. And I always advise people, get some support. If you have to talk to a counselor, do that. Because just to talk to somebody who won't be judgmental, just you can be free and just talk about how you feel. You talk, and then most of the time it will be able to help. But to keep it inside or talk to friends who are negative and give you bad advice, I always suggest to get professional counseling or even church. You have some
Yeah.
church you can go to, and your pastors are able to counsel you and advise you and guide you. So I would say everybody need that. Raising children, you need that. They don't even have to have a disability to be
and
to,
and and
to,
and
to
and,
do
and
that.
that is true, but especially for parents with children that may have a disorder, disability. um Now, if what do you think about family members? I mean, don't you think there's a role that family members can play? I mean, for instance, if it's a trusted family member, of course, or close friends, if they say, "Hey, I know you're tired. How about if I babysit for an hour or two, and so you can go out and just have a little time to yourself?" Do you think that's something good that family members can do to
Oh,
help?
definitely. But you have to educate your family members because you don't want them to tell, oh, you spoil this child. Oh, you do
Right.
this. No, you have to educate them and they have to understand. And it takes nothing. At home, you can have a little meeting and invite somebody to come in and talk about it. I've done that. Somebody come
Yes.
in because you don't want to say it. Have somebody come in and talk about it. So this is what is happening. This is so it's coming from somebody else. This is how you can support. And as parents too, you must ask for help. Tell people
Definitely. If
how
it's
you feel.
needed, if
Yes,
it's needed, we should, parents should not be afraid to ask for help.
definitely. I'm tired. If when you go into the grocery, can you get grocery for me?
Yeah.
Stuff like that, little things. You'd be surprised how that help.
That makes it
We
that
need to go
that
to the
makes a
hairdresser.
difference.
Parents, are I keep talking about like it's only ladies, but men too. They need to go to the barbers. How can you support them? As you say, come into the home, stay until they come back. Not drop off the child at your home. The child is used to their environment. So you come,
Right, right,
but you have to ask for the help.
right. And if you
You
need it,
can't just
doesn't
sit there. You have to ask.
you
And
have to ask for the help. And I have to ask you this. Would you say that acceptance is key? Because I know that some parents may struggle with that diagnosis and they may say that they've accepted it, but deep down in their hearts, there's a struggle.
Yes. And as you say, acceptance. So as I say, you get counseling because as you say, you have to accept. And it takes some people a longer time. And don't, beat up on yourself. It is hard, but eventually by learning and accepting that we are all individuals, we all have our different struggles, we're all made up differently, you will eventually accept it because we're different.
I agree, because don't you think if a parent is struggling with that whole stigma, whatever? I remember my mom telling me when I had my first child, and I used to get very stressed out when he would start crying. And my mom said, when you hold him and you're stressed out, he feels that tension in your body. It's passing on to him. So do you think if a parent is struggling, that the child may somehow feel that struggle from the parent?
I believe so because you give off that kind of a aura. Babies are young. They're not stupid. They're seeing things that you don't know that they're seeing.
Yeah.
So I believe that. I know we're gonna run out of time, and I wanted to.
No, we have time. We have time.
We have time. Oh, because I have some
We
books
can
that
keep
I want.
going. No, we can keep going.
Okay, so I really want, if you're interested, there's a book called "Is This Autism?" and the author is Donna Henderson. Or should I type it in there? Oh, I'll type it in here. So,
Yeah, I
I,
think is there a place you can put it in the comments?
yes, I'm gonna do that. I'll just write a book because I really know there's a lot of books, but these are the books that I find very, very,
And
very,
thank you
very
so much
interesting.
for that. And I'm
Yes.
asking those who are viewing, if you know someone that has a child with autism, please feel free to share the video.
And I would say that, I just want to commend you and this program because
Thank you.
people and there's other programs out there, but it's good. We can't have too much. can't have too much because you might have a certain following, and other people have a certain following. So, but the word is getting out there, and we just have to be happy about that.
I agree with you.
Just wanting
Okay,
to
I
put.
think it's showing up where it says private chat. I'm not sure how to share that in this. Let's see here.
Wait, showing as private chat?
I'm seeing it showing up. There's a box that says private chat. There's an area where it says post comment. Let me see.
Yeah, you're right. I should have put it in the comments.
Yeah,
Okay.
so put it in the
Post
where
a
it says
comment.
post a
Okay.
comment. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I'm still learning about this whole thing. So thank you.
Some destination won't get comment. I don't know. It's not.
Yes, I think it'll show up in the chat. So we can give it a try.
Okay. No, it's not going. I don't know why. It's not allowing me to
Oh, it's not allowing you to do it.
yeah.
What
I
I'll
put
do
it in
is,
the private chat. Can you get it to
let's
can you
see
post it
here.
on your thing?
Chat with saying chat with everyone. Okay, it's just showing in the studio. I don't
Ah,
know why. I don't know why it's still, so that's something I'll have. So if you don't mind, if you send that text that to me, I'll definitely put it on my Facebook wall.
okay. All right. So don't put it in here because you won't be able to transfer it.
Right, I don't know how.
Okay, okay,
Unfortunately,
all
so
right. So
that's something I will definitely have to. That's the next step. I need to learn how to utilize that.
that's okay. So I'll send it to you because these are some books that I find very helpful, and I picked out book. One of them is this Autism, and there's a famous lady, Temple Grandin, and she wrote a book, The Autistic Brain, and she's one of those that you would have so-called high functioning, very brilliant lady.
Okay.
And there's another one, Parenting a Child with Autism by Richard Bass, and An
Okay.
Early Start for Your Child with Autism by Sally J. Rogers and Geraldine Dawson. So I'm going to give you that information. Those are some of the books that, I find very, very interesting. And I look for books that when the young child, middle child, and adult. So, that different people will listen, maybe need different information.
Yes.
So I'll
Yes.
send that to you. Um, all I have to say to parents, is that information, just get more information. Like you come online here, get the information, and each one teach one. If you
Yes.
learn about this tonight, you talk to somebody else. You
Yes.
gather the information. And I remember as a parent when I started, and my child, all have all different diagnoses. But when I don't focus on the diagnosis, I focus on what can help him. I don't focus on diagnosis. What can you do to support my child? That my child can be a functional adult. I don't care
Yes.
what the diagnosis is. And sometimes we have to learn not to push our children. I'm one of those mom that push you. Yeah, you gotta do this. No, we have to. My son told me that a parent's responsibility is to teach your child to be think for themselves. And I thought it was just fresh, but said your responsibility is to train a child to think for themselves. And if you can do that, you have done your job. So
Wow.
yeah, if you have done that, you would have done your job. So we can't put things on children because that is what we want.
Yes.
Think again a lot from our culture we try to push our children, and
And
sometimes
that's true.
that can be bad for them. So help your child to be able to think for themselves, support them as much as you can, but remember, as parents, each one teach one. You learn something, you pass it on. That
Yes.
person take it up because someone had to teach me and help me, and then I learned so much that I'm able to pass it on. It became, I
Yes.
remember I was in business administration when I realized that my child was unique. And I switched my whole profession. I became a social worker, and I work in the human service industry now for over 20 something years. And what I have learned. Yes, I've gone to college, I've done all those work, but what I have learned that was the most impactful is what I learned from other parents.
That is so powerful.
It's
And
what I learned from other parents.
Kathleen Johnson just posted, thank you for joining us so much. She says, I am interested in this conversation. My daughter has autism with Down syndrome. So thank you for sharing that. It was very important for us to do this topic tonight. And you know, I just want to say to parents out there that, I know there are some people that they look at their child as damaged goods or something is wrong with their child. Please don't ever look at your child that way. Please just remember to love your child and utilize all the resources that are out there to help your child as much as you can, but also to seek help for yourself if it is needed. And, Pam, I will have you close out. What are your parting words for us tonight?
My parting word is that, I appreciate all who come on. I appreciate you, Bree, for having, this discussion, because this is where it starts. People learning from each other. And my parting word is to parents, as you said, Bree, I'll echo it again. Your child is not damaged goods. A child is a blessing from God.
Yes,
And we are all individuals, we are all human beings. And if you can look at your child like that, half of the battle is won. And then you're going to do, as a parent, you're going to do what is necessary for your child. And you're going to turn one, and whatever you learn tonight, you're going to pass it on to someone else, because each one teach one.
definitely. I'd like to thank for those who watched us live, and I'd like to thank those who will watch the replay. And Pamela, once again, thank you so much for doing this. I hope you will come back. I really enjoyed this conversation, and like I told you, preparing for this show, I learned a lot. And, I am hoping that churches will utilize this conversation, that family members will utilize this conversation, because I think we all have a part to play.
We all do. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. And I'll see you next week.